European countries are taking more steps to get the continent back to some kind of new normal as the fight against coronavirus pivots to opening up the economies there. June the 15th has been labelled as European D-Day for tourism, with many countries starting to relax their borders to get the vital tourist season going. Germany has proposed allowing travel to 31 European countries from June the 15th, while Italy's foreign minister says the government is working on a plan for the whole of the EU to reopen to tourism together. Here's Luigi Di Maio speaking on Italian TV.
We must allow, especially to Italian tourists, structures of very high level to be able to receive foreign tourists. June 15th is a little European D-Day for tourism.
Well, let's just show you some of the latest pictures from Italy. The archaeological site of Pompeii reopened, but as you can see, with very few visitors. They had a system where 40 people were allowed in at one time every 15 minutes, but on reopening day, only a handful of people wandered through the ancient ruins. Let's take a look at Spain for you now, where foreign travellers will no longer have to quarantine after July the 1st. The Spanish government says the worst is behind the country and is looking forward to welcoming tourists again. Kai Hedgeko is in Madrid.
The feeling seems to be from the government that although the tourist season, which is so important for Spain, which makes up about 12% of GDP, although the early part of the season has been pretty much totally wiped out, it wants to safeguard the peak season, which is from July into August. And so it wants to make sure that Spain is seen as a completely safe country by the time that July comes around. That's the idea. And so it's decided on the strategy of opening up the country from July, which is a little bit later than some other countries, for example, Greece or other countries around the southern Mediterranean. But the feeling is that that can make sure that there is some kind of peak tourism season here in Spain.
Next to Greece, where restrictions on domestic travel have been eased, Quinton Somerville is on the island of Milos.
Athens is sending a flotilla to fight a pandemic. The Greek islands are reopening. Among the first to call, a high-speed deployment of doctors with a mission. These islands have been a safe haven from the pandemic with no confirmed cases of COVID-19. These medics from the mainland want to make sure it stays that way. It's an annual expedition to the remotest parts of the Aegean, with special purpose this year.
We will be in contact with the government whenever they need us. We will come here to check if there is any case of COVID infection.
The mayor of Mykonos welcomes them ashore. We're greeted with elbow bumps instead of handshakes. There are enough tests for whoever wants them. There are only 250 people on this island, and none of them have been tested for COVID-19 until today. The village was built on a hilltop to safeguard it from pirates, hoping its isolation continues to offer protection. Greece has had only 172 deaths from COVID-19 and is leaving lockdown faster than expected. Bars and restaurants have reopened for guests. Hilary and David Brown live here.
We spend so much time here, we love it here. So even if there wasn't a pandemic and we were told to go home, we still would have chosen to stay here. It's safer.
There's no pandemic in the Cyclades. Only, I think, 2 in Syros and 1 in Mykonos, and that's it.
Father Theodoros leads the way. These tests are essential as Greece prepares to welcome back foreign tourists in the coming months.
Today is the first day that everything comes back to normal, including restaurants and all the borders and ships, so we are concerned about everything being as planned and the best possible way.
Greece is emerging from the pandemic earlier than others, not unscathed, but in better shape than most. Isolation is a way of life here, but so too is tourism. The health of the islanders depends on both. Quinton Somerville, BBC News, the Southern Aegean.
Well, a lot of tourists planning to visit Europe during the summer will be heading to the same place, the beach. But have a look at this. Filmed by a French environmental organisation in the Mediterranean Sea, Unfortunately, yeah, that's what you can see, the masks there and latex gloves on the seabed. The group's founder posted the footage online and warned it could be the start of a new type of pollution. In Barbados, borders remain shut, but the current daily curfew even from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. will be lifted next week as the government looks to reopen the economy there. Barbados has reported only 92 cases of COVID-19 and 7 deaths, but the impact of the crisis on tourism has been massive. The BBC has been speaking to the Prime Minister.
We are trying to balance lives and livelihoods like everywhere else. I listened to your reports earlier about Europe. We're in deep conversations with each other on a common public health protocol within the region. We're also having discussions with the airlines and the cruise industry. But we're not going to be driven by a date. We're going to be driven by a satisfaction that we have safe protocols that keep our workers safe, that keep our people safe, that keep our visitors safe.
Now to Thailand, which welcomed 40 million tourists last year. The industry has been hard hit by the virus, including elephant keepers who rely on income from experiences and shows. Keepers and their elephants are now migrating across Thailand from the country's tourist centres to the remote villages where they grew up. BBC Thailand correspondent Chayot Yongchai Runchai joined one group making the journey home.
Hundreds of elephants are on the move in Thailand.
We are taking the elephants back home because of COVID-19. There are no more tourists. We have been waiting for several months to see if it would get better, but it's not.
So Bang is taking her elephants to her village where she can feed them. It's more than 100 miles away in the mountains of Chiang Mai province. It will be a difficult journey.
We expect it to take 3 days and 2 nights, but we have a young elephant and an old one. The baby elephant is 4 months old. If they are tired, they can rest.
Elephants are synonymous with tourism in Thailand, but it's an industry accused of cruelty. The 3,000 elephants that rely on tourism are at risk of starvation. And for some elephants, the pandemic has meant more suffering.
If it doesn't get better in 3 months, I will contact people I know along the Myanmar border. I will take my elephant to work in the logging business there.
After 2 days of travel, the convoy is chased out of a village. Locals think the keepers may have coronavirus. Tired, the team stops at a river to rest.
The elephants got very thirsty, and it seemed the little one had no energy to walk.
Their journey home has been funded by a local charity owner called Miss Lek. She thinks this is a chance to transform the industry.
If there was no pandemic today, elephants would still be in the same state. Tourists would be swarming here in Thailand. But after COVID-19, we will think, and tourists will have time to think too.
After 3 days traveling, the keepers and their elephants have arrived safely.
And they are having buffet right now that the villagers prepare for them to welcome them home.
I felt relief. My elephants were not fainting. No one died on the way.
But Bang's arrival is only the beginning of a longer struggle.
We didn't expect to become rich, just not to have debts, or just to be able to support our family.
Chayot Yongchai, BBC News, Thailand.